Today is Thursday, the week of Parshas Truma, the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar. And as perhaps you may be aware, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, which means, the Gemara tells us that from the time Adar comes in, we're Marbin B'Simcha, we increase the level of Simcha, of joy that we have in our lives. Rashi explains that it's not just limited to Purim and to the month of Adar, it applies as well to the month of Nissan. For in the month of Nissan, of course, is the holiday of Pesach. Pesach, Passover, in which we celebrate the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt. Exodus, by definition, means a redemption, and therefore there's a common denominator between the month of Adar and the month of Nissan. For we experience, historically speaking, redemption. Of course, in Adar, the story of Purim, from the hands of Haman and Achashverosh, the Jewish people were redeemed by Hashem. And then, of course, during the month of Nisan, the story of Pesach, when we were redeemed from slavery in Egypt. So I'd like to ask you a very simple question. It says, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. Marbin is a verb. It seems like it's a command. Marbin B'Simcha. It's our duty, Laharbot B'Simcha, to increase the level of happiness that we have, the level of joy in our life. And therefore, I'd like to ask you, how does one go about doing that? How does one increase the level of joy one has in one's life? And while it's true that this should be a message which is somewhat universal, it shouldn't just be restricted to Adar and Nissan, there seems to be a special emphasis during the month of Adar and Nissan. The Malbim explains in his definition of Simcha, that what is Simcha as opposed to the other levels of Ditza, Gila, other kinds of Simcha. He describes it as internal, emotional, constant, and consistent. So the question I'd like to ask is, how do we go about attaining a level of simcha that's internal, that's emotional, that's so consistent? And I think the answer lies with one key. Whenever we talk about redemption, there's really two sides to the coin. For whenever we've been redeemed, historically speaking, it means that prior to that, we've been in exile. Prior to that, we've been suffering. And therefore, the choice remains up to us. Do we focus on the tsaras? Do we focus on the travails, on the tribulations, on the terrible difficulty of the galus, of the galut, of the exile of the diaspora that took place before the geula, before the redemption? Or do we focus and put our emphasis on the redemption? Do we focus specifically on the exodus? Do we celebrate the fact that Hashem redeemed us? You see, the cup has two sides. It's either half full or it's half empty. By appreciation, through appreciation, by appreciating what we have, by being cognizant of the goodness in our lives, we can come to simcha, because everybody has difficulty in their life, and that difficulty threatens to bring us down. But we can overcome that by focusing and thinking specifically about the wonderful elements in our life. Whatever it is that it might be, whether it's family, whether it's financial stability, whether it's a good relationship with our significant other, with our spouse, whatever it might be that we have, if we focus on what we do have, then we will have simcha that's consistent, constant, and real, emotional, and internal. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and have an amazing Adar.